If you were sitting down to create a map for your favorite game for the first time, something uniquely yours, what would you make? For a lot of mappers, the answer is, sensibly, their houses, their bedrooms, their neighborhoods, places unique to themselves and their lived experiences. Over the past year or so, I've spent a lot of time screenshotting and recording within games from the early 2000s to use in videos for this channel, mainly on the hunt for televisions and PC monitors. Naturally, I'd find most of these displays within maps depicting modern, real-world environments. So I'd hang out in bedrooms, living rooms, offices, and the like, looking for the perfect shot. In fact, in the case of some of these games, I'm pretty sure I've spent more time no-clipping through them than actually playing them. I'm not complaining though. Browsing through old community-made Counter-Strike maps was probably the most fun part about making the Half-Life Mods video. Loading these maps feels like walking through different rooms of a digital museum, each depicting a specific time and place in the creator's life. I recently became aware, thanks to this video and this article specifically, of a series of photographs taken by cult filmmaker John Waters depicting individual frames from various films taken in the moment as the film played in front of him. What started as a means to provide stills for his own film Multiple Maniacs became a method through which to recontextualize films and explore the idea of how we perceive and remember the art that we experience. Since then, I've been thinking about this concept and how valuable it can be to look at video games in this way. Games are an extremely multidisciplinary art form whose creators only have so much control over what their player will experience within them. If you're blasting away at shadow people in Alan Wake 2, are you going to take the time to appreciate some bottles sitting on a table? Well, probably not, but someone created those bottles because, in order to better immerse you, they had to be there. Games are frequently full of individual pieces of art that some, or maybe even a majority of players, will never actually see. So with this idea of recontextualization in mind, I want to share some of these maps viewed not through the sights of a crosshair, but through the lens of a camera. We're going to take a trip through 10 Counter-Strike 1.6 maps without any kind of real goal, other than appreciating them in a different way than we might have if we were actually playing a match, and just kinda go wherever that may take us. Although making these videos has reignited my love for exploring these types of spaces within games, my interest in them started a lifetime ago. Over Christmas break in 1999, my parents gave me a Dreamcast
detected,
along with one of the most 7 out of 10, non-derogatory, games of all time, Toy Commander. Toy Commander is a sort of action/racing hybrid game about taking control of toy vehicles and completing missions across levels, taking place within individual rooms of an entire household. I enjoyed the actual gameplay well enough as a kid, but I'd regularly find myself just ignoring the objectives and exploring the game's embiggened environments. My most impactful experience with this type of household room-based map design would come a couple years later though, in the form of a Counter-Strike map you probably already know of, DE Rats. I think the original DE Rats was, and is, generally considered to be a subpar map from a gameplay perspective, but that didn't stop it from becoming my personal favorite to play on for a good while. I came across a cool video here on YouTube from Krazzy that delves into the history of DE Rats, detailing its Half-Life deathmatch origins, and exploring the subsequent maps from Rats' original creator, Chris Spain. As much as I loved DE Rats though, it doesn't quite evoke the feelings I'm looking for our purposes here. For one, the objects placed throughout the map are mostly just borrowed from official Half-Life and Counter-Strike maps, so while it is cute to see these objects from a new, tiny perspective, they don't offer up much insight into the map's author. Similarly, the layout of the map is about as rudimentary as you can get in terms of architecture. Was Rats based on a kitchen from somewhere in Chris Spain's life? I don't know, but the simplicity of its layout sort of just evokes the idea of a kitchen and doesn't really feel like you're exploring a real place. One of my favorite things to come across in these residentially themed maps is just, for lack of a better word, stuff that the creator likes. Let's take a walk through AWP Toy Snipers, a rats-like map from creator Gino. Spawning in as a CT, the first area that caught my eye was this corner here. A few seconds of Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses plays on loop if you get close to this record player, which I obviously won't be able to include here, but it's cute that you can ride and headbang along on this spinning record. Oh hey, a System of a Down poster, a band that I absolutely did listen to while playing CS as a kid. Along the floor and desk are scattered bottles of beer along with a lit cigarette. It's easy to imagine the map's author depicting their own CS playing ritual here, kicking off their flip-flops and enjoying some vices while poning news. It's fun to see real-world products in these maps because you know that they aren't there for any kind of cynical advertising purposes, but rather that the author simply likes them enough to include them. Does this mean that Gino eats baby food? Who can say? Including your favorite bands is one thing, but I think this clock is the most interesting object here. It's a little grandma core, you know? Pretty and floral, not something you might expect to find in this otherwise bro-y space. It's nice. And hey, if you've got a spare $180 laying around, you could get one for yourself. I like to try to date maps based exclusively on stuff I find within them, so we'll do that here and on some of the upcoming maps as well. This is a pretty easy task for our first pick thanks to this Counter-Strike Global Offensive box. Since that game launched in August of 2012, it seems fair to guess this was made around then, making this map pretty recent as far as these things go. Heck yeah.
Hit.
Pretty close on this one. Something I love to think about when looking at these maps is, what particular details did the author feel were important to include in order to accurately recreate their space? In the case of DE Rats Black by Black Swordsman, the answer seems to be cable management, or lack thereof in this case. Not that I can say anything, but this is a mess of cables that you could make an entire video about. If we were to take a look behind the desk here, we could see that despite what appears to be a complete mess of wiring, each of these cables does in fact connect properly to its corresponding piece of equipment. Incredible. I like that Swordsman included these little rails on the slide-out keyboard thing here. Does anyone actually like these things? I've always just put my keyboard on top of the desk instead. There's just nowhere near enough space for your mouse down here. This room has big, guys really live like this vibes, with the majority of the room still in boxes, except for the bed and PC setups. Not to mention the cigarette just ashing directly into what looks like a cup of coffee. I've actually never heard of Speed Unlimited, but apparently it's an Argentinian energy drink for people who really like Peaky Blinders. Between the Axe deodorant, the slightly boxy style LCD monitor, and the Resident Evil 4 poster here, I think I'm gonna place the release date of this map around 2009. Oh wow, I was way off. This map is only a few years old.
Miss.
It's honestly pretty cool that they've made a sort of period piece map here. It's very convincing. One sort of Easter egg, I guess, that shows up consistently in these maps is having a computer display a screenshot of the map itself being worked on within a map editor. I'm not exactly sure where this tradition started, but you can find it at least as far back as CS Office, an official CS map that first debuted back in 2000. Honestly, so many maps have this Easter egg that it would be easier to find a map that doesn't have it. So let's take that easy path to talk about another rat-style map, DE The Real Rats by The Donor King. Pretty bold to call your map The Real whatever, but I gotta say, I do love this one. As far as putting stuff you like in your map, this one pushes it to the limit. Truly the Walmart supercenter of Counter-Strike maps. And, according to the map description, highly authentic. 90% accurate to the creator's real bedroom. Despite the sheer saturation of products placed, this room overall is pretty darn cozy. You're kinda blasted by some generic beats when you spawn in, but if we fly over by this open window, we can take in some sun set to the sounds of birds chirping outside. The lighting here is really nice. I love the harsh hit of sunlight scattered along the posters here. A cool touch in this map is that Donor King opted to use in-world objects like keyboards, remotes, and wires as bridges or ladders, rather than the generic wooden boards you see in a lot of other Rats maps. This little wooden bridge does feel a bit out of place, but the plant is nice, so we'll forgive this one. Trying to date this map was especially fun, as we have a lot to go off of. Firstly, there's quite a few posters featuring games on the walls, none of which having been released any later than 2001. So that's a good rough idea, but I think we can do better. Tucked away under this CRT television over here is a PC gaming magazine. It's pretty low res, but we can definitely make out a few games here, including Halo as it existed before Bungie was purchased by Microsoft in June of 2000. Though I wasn't able to find this exact issue, the map also features a second issue of the same magazine that I was able to find. The September 2000 issue of a German publication titled simply PC Games. So now we have a rough time frame, but I still think we can do better. Near the bedroom door, we can find a Lipton iced tea box, peach flavored in this case.
Pfirsich.
And on top of the box is a Best By date, August 19th, 2001. Now, obviously it's possible this texture comes from a photo taken elsewhere, but given the pretty consistent lighting and quality across all of these textures, I think it's pretty likely they were taken by the author. There's another box of tea, apple flavor this time,
Apfel.
with a very similar Best By date to the other one. Aside from some crumbs on the desk, Donor King's room is overall pretty clean considering the sheer amount of stuff, so unless they've got some particular love for drinking expired tea, I feel pretty confident in guessing that the map at least started development sometime in 2001. I tried to find the exact release date to see how close I came, but that was harder than expected. The map's README file contains some clues, like an ICQ number, which, if you aren't extremely old, was a messaging program used at the time, but no date is mentioned. Running the link to the Donor King website through the Wayback Machine, the earliest mention of The Real Rats archived is in 2003, so I think we're going to have to leave it in that 2-year range. Interestingly, though we do have a computer monitor on the bed, there's not actually any PC setup to speak of. There are plenty of parts scattered around though, so maybe they just haven't gotten around to building it yet. We've got a Voodoo 3 2000 graphics card, pretty nice for the time. This Hammerhead controller might look a little goofy and Mad Catsian now, but controller options on PC were quite limited at the time, and this one seems pretty solid. It's even got back paddles, a feature that still isn't quite standard today, relegated mostly to pricier variations. The Hammerhead also acted as a prototype controller for some early dev kits for the original Xbox. Neat. Last but not least, we've got the 3D Revelator. These are stereoscopic glasses that, assuming your monitor, graphics card, and a chosen game allowed for it, produce a 3D effect while wearing them. Reviews from the time are surprisingly pretty positive from what I could find. Makes me wish I could try them out for myself. As much as I do enjoy sheer quantity of stuff, My favorite thing to come across is a map that feels more personal. These kinds of maps do exist in newer games like Counter-Strike 2, and while there are still some cute personal touches here and there, they don't really do it for me like the ones you'd find in their older counterparts. I think the expectation of a higher graphical fidelity leaves less room for scrappy DIY elements like those found in DE Zimmer 87 Rats by Rico Nuddle 87. I could find next to nothing about this map as far as whether it's based on the author's real room, but I think its devotion to detail and authenticity speaks for itself. It doesn't really get more personal than this one. As we work our way around the room, we can see nearly every object and texture within the map is very clearly a scan or photo taken by the author, many of which appear to be of the author themselves. If I look through a map's textures and nearly every one of them is stained white from a camera flash, I know I'm in for a good time. I love this little slip of paper here, maybe a class schedule or something. Oh, the wallpaper isn't tiling correctly here? Doesn't matter, that's their real wallpaper, so it's going in. There's some great atmosphere over here on this side of the room, with just a little bit of light spilling in from a snowy void outside. The desk showcases some more painstaking attention to detail here on the right side, with what appears to be actual schoolwork and maybe a binder for English class here in the drawers. On the other side, some kind of Simpsons tube, maybe a coin bank? The best bit is this magazine in the drawer below it, probably some kind of teen pop culture mag, but I couldn't find the source. This next side of the room is my favorite. This fan is wild. 50% hyper detail, 50% pink blob. Beautiful. Perfection. A framed photo of what looks to be a red-eyed gremlin creature, but with the textures this low res, who knows? He's good though. This shelf and another one on the other side of the room really emphasize what I meant when I mentioned scrappy DIY elements. Where many other maps would include some simple or pre-made objects, the author of Zimmer 87 Rats says, no, my real stuff is gonna sit on these shelves, and if that means in the form of pixelated 2D cutouts, some of which being completely indiscernible, so be it. There's an enormous CRT here that you can actually climb down into. Apparently these things are mostly empty space, who knew? The PC down below looks relatively unassuming, until you check out the sides, that is. Alright, I've avoided showing them as long as I could, but please check out these incredibly scrunkly drawings of Dragon Ball characters. They're so low res and I wish I could see what they look like in person, but they're still very good. Frieza's proportions here are delightful, but the clear winner is this happy little cell, just a delightful little guy. As a bit of a visual aid, here's some artist's renditions of the artist's renditions for you to enjoy. There's a level of vulnerability to including so much of yourself in your work like this that I just can't help but have immense respect for. Very cool map. So before we make a full transition from rat to human, I'd like to stop at a strange in-between point located in the heart of DE City Home, a bizarre map that I, unfortunately, could not find the creator of. To give a good sense of the strange Rugrats-like scale here, we're going to forego the no-clip flying around and just walk around on our little baby feets. Spawning in on the T side, everything seems relatively normal until we enter the singular apartment at the top of the stairs, where we're greeted with an enormous chair nearly blocking the front door. One of the reasons I find rat-style maps so compelling is that, because of their massive scale, it's possible to depict a single room in a level of detail that wouldn't really be feasible in a normally scaled map. City Home is basically the antithesis of that concept though, with furniture and objects that leave a lot of room for interpretation. I love it though. Check out this table and chair set that looks like it was all punched from the same singular Minecraft tree. I love this kitchen with nothing but 2 sinks and a stove. I love this kitchen with nothing but 2 sinks and a stove. I love this kitchen with nothing but 2 sinks and a stove. I love this kitchen with nothing but 2 sinks and a stove. I love this kitchen with nothing but 2 sinks and a stove, cutely using little bomb plant markers as burners. I tried to figure out what exactly is displayed on this beautiful bezel-less monitor here, to no avail. If I had to guess, looks like some Windows XP MSN Messenger chatting going on, maybe over some old vBulletin style message board. Not much more to say on this one, I just really enjoyed the strange scale of it all. At this midway point, I'd like to say thank you to my patrons, whose names you'll be seeing on screen. I had a lot of fun making this one, so if you'd like to see more videos looking through maps like this, let me know. I have a pretty huge list of them at this point, and not just in Counter-Strike. If you have any suggestions of maps to check out, please do let me know. I just love these things. Alright, back to the maps. I'm kind of feeling the low poly, low detail vibe right now, so let's step into the house of CS House, a map by Sniper Sad. I say step into, but I really mean break into, as there's no way to get into the house that doesn't involve destruction of property in some form. No idea how this would play in a real match, but it's interesting that you're forced to give away your position in order to get inside. Starting on the top floor, our first room, dimly lit as it is, contains what appears to be an old 3D rendered landscape. Some further digging reveals said render to be from the game The Settlers 2, the second in the Settlers series of city building games from German developer Blue Byte Software. Never actually played any of these myself, but this second one looks pretty cool. There's actually a gaming rig in the room next door, so let's hop over there and try it out. I love how often you'd see older games use this operating system-like UI. It definitely gives the game a sort of dry software-as-game vibe to it, but I think there's something to be said for sitting down at your PC to play a thinky game with a cup of coffee on a chill Sunday or whatever. That was a nice distraction, but let's get back on track and check out the rest of this bedroom here. Plastered on the walls above a comically minuscule couch and sad little bed are some movie posters. Independence Day, Star Wars, The Rock, and of course, The Matrix. This is probably unsurprising given the subject matter of Counter-Strike and the time of its release, but I can confidently say The Matrix is easily the most referenced film in CS 1.6 maps. It's absolutely everywhere. Some beefy sound equipment here too, likely for listening to the Matrix soundtrack CD while settling hard into the wee hours of the night. Stepping out into the hallway, we encounter the first, but certainly not last, somewhat creepy area of one of these maps. You'll have to forgive me because while I'll try my best not to overstate any of this kind of thing, I do legitimately love how frequently these maps will unintentionally produce such striking, and yes, liminal, imagery. I think this feeling is amplified when you consider that many of these maps are based on people's real homes. It's hard not to feel like I'm somehow intruding, in this case quite literally breaking in, for a purpose the map's author never intended. Also doesn't help that this hostage is going full Blair Witch over here. The main floor has a few pretty standard rooms, but I really love this living room. The somewhat creepy vibes with the purple lighting and droning ambiance. Juxtaposed with the Monkey Island screenshot on the wall, and this positively crispy Yoda painting is just extremely hilarious to me. Would absolutely love to chill in here. Last and, well, actually least, we have the basement. The only real room of note is this office, with another movie poster, this time for Men in Black, a Half-Life poster, and, most interestingly, a giant CD labeled LAN Session Room. After checking the map's README file, it sounds like SADA was a Counter-Strike clan the author belonged to, and within the map's story, their home was used as a LAN party for them to play CS. Strangely, this is not the only LAN party-based map set in Germany that I came across, so let's take a look at another one while we're at it. DE Grimaland from map author Mako aims to depict a real annual LAN party held in a gym/venue hall in the German town of Grimma. While I personally find this map a little less interesting aesthetically than what we've discussed so far, it's definitely interesting to be able to explore a map based on a real location available to the public. I was hoping I could use Google Maps or the Wayback Machine to compare the map more directly to its real-life counterpart, but unfortunately the oldest depiction of the venue I could find was from 2010. The first mention of the DE Grimaland map is on their official website in June of 2003, just weeks before Grimaland 3, their third LAN party event. So either the venue significantly changed in that 7-year span, or the map is just not especially accurate to the building, at least as far as the exterior is concerned. Their website also contains a list of files that grows over the years, archiving some neat things like multiple newspaper articles that refer to the participants as computer freaks, a term I'd personally identify as any day of the week over gamer. Sadly, none of these videos seem to be archived, but luckily some of the match demos were, so let's head into the gym to an available computer and open up this little time capsule. Looking through the few photos archived of Grimaland 3 was pretty fun. I never went to one of these large public LAN parties myself, but I absolutely attended smaller ones, so there's still some nostalgia hits here. Whoa, Lipton tea spotted again!
Lipton tea detected.
I wonder if this was just a common beverage of choice for German computer freaks at the time. Let me know in the comments if you were around for that. There's actually a really neat book titled LAN Party by Merritt K that details LAN history in general and more specific experiences from contributing writers. The best part though is looking through all of the photos listed by date, watching how things changed over the years. If you were there at the time, it's a strangely wistful flip through, but even if you weren't, I'd imagine it's still a cool piece of history. Definitely recommend it for your coffee table. Well, after a long night of computer freaking, I think it's time to head out and make our way to one of my favorite maps that we'll be exploring in this video. Easter Eggs House by map author Easter Eggs is an unassuming little map that I just find extremely interesting and cool, and I'm going to do my best to articulate why, but I'd be lying if I said that a lot of it isn't just vibes. As I mentioned earlier, it can be hard not to approach exploring these maps from the so creepy, so liminal angle, and again, I do see the appeal of that sort of thing. I think the most common frame of reference for people watching this video will probably be 2023's myhouse.wad for Doom, a mod that is clearly in conversation with this entire concept of recreating spaces from your own life in a game. Another great take on this subject is 2016's Anatomy from developer Kitty Horror Show. If you haven't played or heard of it but enjoyed My House, I definitely recommend it. It's a little artsier, but I personally find it to be much more straightforwardly scary than My House. It's good. But in the case of Easter Eggs House, while you could certainly imagine its uncanny rooms descending into a more nightmarish scenario a la Anatomy, I personally find the dreamlike qualities here to be more tranquil, if maybe a bit melancholy. I got sick halfway through writing this video, and on the day my fever reached its height,
I can't take much more of this.
I had dream after dream about walking through one of the houses I lived in as a kid. That is what it feels like walking through this map. The layout is there and the outlines of major objects are there, but the detail is missing in the dream. Most of the color is missing, with nearly every wall, ceiling, and floor being painted in white or something relatively neutral. The furniture pops a bit more with some red and black, but is similarly limited to just a few color options. Almost every piece is crafted with the exact same wood texture, recolored just enough to differentiate between objects. What do you see when you look outside? You can remember the big tree, but the rest? Nothing. Just a big empty Windows XP wallpaper void. Some things do stand out in those memories though. This is probably my favorite room in the map, mainly because of these plaid textured couches. This style of couch was everywhere when I was growing up. I looked at these for 1 second, rendered here in this low-res, low-poly manner, and I instantly knew exactly what they felt like, even what they smelled like. It's a strange feeling.
Do you smell what I smell?
In the kitchen, we can find some real-world products again, and while the stark contrast between these photo-real cereal boxes and the half-remembered objects in the kitchen is amusing, it does make perfect sense when viewed through this dream lens. You don't remember the beautifully detailed woodwork of your parents' antique vanity. You remember your Lucky Charms cereal and the exact toy that came inside the box. Actually, I have no idea what this is. What the hell is this? An image search led me to this video from YouTube user Vintage Kenner Guy, and I'm just gonna play a few seconds of that for you here. I was gonna make a joke about no kid wanting this, but honestly, I'm pretty sure I would have loved it. Dude, a lock, hell yeah. As far as other more vividly detailed objects in the house go, we have a couple more, like these paintings hanging on the walls. Obviously, I have no idea if these paintings adorned the real walls of Easter Egg's real home, but I suppose it's possible. Looking up impressionist nature paintings like this was already tough because the style is so commercialized, but it's even harder now within the swamp of AI art that looks just like it. I was able to find the source for this one though, a painting by the artist Richard Earl Thompson, possibly titled Road to New Fame, if we want to trust impressionistprints.com circa October 2000. I also really like these copy-pasted houseplants throughout the first floor here. I like keeping plants in the house as much as I can manage it, and I've grown to really enjoy seeing them pop up in video games. So much so that I've made a novelty Blue Sky account cataloging them, so give it a follow if that interests you. Another fun quality about this map is that it lends itself to speculating about the dynamic of the family that lived here. This room clearly belongs to the parents. The furniture is bigger, the bed is taller, plenty of closet space, and their own bathroom. I think this room is maybe an older sibling of Easter eggs. It's a bit plain and more mature than the others we'll look at in a moment. Dude, they've got a Dell? We never had one in my house, but I do remember using some from this series in middle school. The 4000 series started out with the 4100 model, which looked much more like any generic PC tower you'd have seen in the late 90s. But the 4200 model in 2001 started using this much more iconic design, one heavily associated with my memories of using Windows XP for the first time when our school upgraded their hardware. I really miss these massive computer desks and how much storage space they provided. And hey, look, more proof that no one uses these useless slide-out trays. Not to get all gender essentialist here, but I think this room across the hall probably belongs to Sister Easter Egg, with its white vanity and poster of teen heartthrob Mr. Jonathan Depp. Last but certainly not least, we have what I assume to be Easter Egg and another sibling's shared bedroom. A real gamer's paradise, it features all the necessities. An absolute pyramid of Pepsi Wild Cherry Cola, a shelf stocked with the Nintendo GameCube's finest offerings, and a beast of a gaming rig that easily rivals any older sibling's Dell within the household. Placing the date of this map somehow once again involves Resident Evil 4, as it's the latest game to be released amongst these on the shelf here. Aside from this and the dells, there's one other thing in the map that feels like it's from a very specific era. See, in this brief window of time between standard def CRT TVs and flat panel HD TVs, there was this weird evolutionary middle ground of HD CRT displays. Given the wide aspect ratio, but still enormous backside, I'm gonna guess that's what this thing here is. My family actually purchased one of these around 2007, so I'm gonna place the map about there. Although the included README file does confirm that the house is based on the author's own home, there is sadly no date listed. On the author's website, however, the oldest listing I could find for the map is from 2006, so I think I was pretty close.
Hit!
I love that they list a rating for their own map here, very self-aware. There's some other fun stuff too, like additional finished and unfinished maps, an FAQ page, and a set of Steam skins, all of which feature actress Jessica Alba. Yeah, you used to be able to fully customize the appearance of Steam, a feature that was only removed somewhat recently. A shame if you ask me. CS House is another unassuming map that I just really love for somewhat nebulous reasons. It doesn't really get more unassuming than a map just called House, so to clarify, this is the one created by apps of the PUF Counter-Strike clan. Though the majority of the map takes place within the titular house, actually getting inside is kind of tricky for the CTs who spawn just outside of it. As far as I can tell, the only way in is to slowly destroy this front gate with your gun, or very slowly with your knife if you want to save ammo. Like with the other CS House, I have no idea what the thinking was here from a gameplay perspective, but now that we've broken through, let's head inside. It feels, against all odds, strangely cozy in here. The only way I can explain this is that it feels like the house of a weird guy you met at a party who somehow convinced you and your friends to come to his after party at like 3 a.m.
I don't expect you'll have any trouble deciding what to do.
Whose place is designed exclusively for this singular purpose. The entire house is flatly lit by these cold, overly bright ceiling lights. Not a lamp in sight. The kitchen is grimy and the stove hasn't been cleaned in years, but that fridge is definitely full of beer, so it's all good.
It's time to choose your beers.
Every television in the house is mounted obscenely high, suggesting that no one ever actually sits down to watch anything, just glancing here and there while meandering between rooms.
What? I don't understand anything now.
He's decorated the place a little, but every picture frame still has the exact same stock photo that came with it when he bought them.
Quite a piece of work. I am impressed.
I do like the design of the front and back door, and I love that you can open and close every window if you want to. The strongest evidence I can present to you for my party house theory is upstairs. There's one bathroom in the house, accompanied by a full-size couch placed awkwardly close to the door. You can easily imagine being seated here waiting for your turn, half drunk.
Do you remember how you got here?
No.
Looking up and making a moment of weird eye contact with every person that shuffles out through this too small walkway, knowing that in a few minutes, you too will be finishing up your business,
Sitting here like a fool.
and walking out to a bunch of strangers sitting on a couch.
Mom keeps telling me to get home.
My absolute favorite thing in this map, though, that brings everything together with just a small splash of life, is this plant. There's a huge variety of houseplants throughout these maps, all of them wonderful in their own way. This one is my favorite. The model for it is included with the map in the form of a file called potplanet1.mdl, but I'm certain I've seen this guy in other maps before. Checking back through my screenshots, I found one with the same plant in the map DE Safe House Go, a sort of demake of the Safe House map from Counter-Strike Global Offensive. The zip file for that map has a folder called Costa Brava, containing a single model, jins_leafy.mdl, our favorite little plant. CS Costa Brava, a map from author Dr. DK, helpfully credits everyone involved in its creation, including models from someone called Ginseng Avenger, who, as far as I can tell, is the Jin in Jin's Leafy, and the creator of this houseplant model for this map all the way back in 2003. Costa Brava itself was created for a mapping contest held in collaboration between the Counter-Strike fan site CS Central, as well as the extremely early 2000s in every way website Bikini Hangout, and their official CS server/clan called Sex Machine. The contest ran from December 2nd, 2002 to April 14th, 2003, tasking entrants with creating a map in which the terrorists are holding the supermodels hostage at the Bikini Hangout copyright mansion. The counter-terrorist group's job is to rescue the hostages and bring them to safety unharmed, after which the community would vote for the map they liked most, with the winner receiving an Extreme Gaming PC. I don't remember ever hearing of this company, but this is a pretty beefy rig. Looks enormous with a price tag to match. Oof! So, did Costa Brava win this contest? Well, the latest archive for the forum thread with the voting poll is from 2005, years after the contest ended, and Costa Brava is clearly leading it. But unfortunately, none of the additional pages in the thread are archived, and as much as I've tried, I can't find any kind of follow-up regarding the contest on Bikini Hangout or CS Central. There was a note added in August that says they're still awaiting the results from CS Central, but by December the note is removed and no mention of a winner is ever made. Dr. DK mentions the map on their website and asks people to vote for it in the poll in May of 2003, but never mentions it again in the months following the end of the contest. Not sure what exactly ended up happening, but it definitely does seem odd that if Dr. DK did win a $3,000 PC, that they wouldn't have mentioned it on their website. I don't know. Interestingly, another one of the entries to the contest, the runner-up in fact if the poll is correct, is CS Bikini, a map that I've definitely come across many times playing CS over the years. Seems to have stood the test of time more than Costa Brava, even if it didn't win that coveted Nightmare Cubed. I couldn't find anything to directly suggest that Costa Brava is based on a real location visited by Dr. DK, but the map fits well enough into the concept of the video, and we're already here, so let's take a look. Costa Brava is a really beautifully detailed map, especially for 2003. It's easy to see why it did so well in the contest. Jin's modeling work is great, of course. I particularly love these baby trees held in place with poles. The water in the pool nearby gently sways along with this little pool tube. Birds chirp on in its sunset dripped background. Great vibes all around. The sunset lighting even carries over into the interiors. Though these curtains are just a solid texture, the surrounding lighting makes for a convincing effect. Right outside is another pool and some beach babe hostages, one of whom smooches on and shows off a photo of an artist who worked on them. Around the corner is Dr. DK's chill and fun room, complete with Mortal Kombat 2 and Street Fighter 2 Turbo arcade cabs, a jukebox, some air hockey, and a biker playing pool, taking his time to line up a perfect shot. Overall, I'd say Costa Brava is a nice little vacation destination for us to close out the video on. That's 10 maps down and just about all we have time for today. Again, let me know if you enjoyed this format and if you'd like to see more of these in the future, or if you have any suggestions for maps like this to check out, whether that be in CS 1.6 or any other game really. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye!